matter how excited people are about stablecoins, I think they're not excited enough. And then I think beyond that becomes the question of to what extent will the end user be more aware or less aware of crypto rails? This is kind of a hot take, but I think in a sense, a lot of the rails will disappear.
All right, we're here with the founder and CEO of Privy. Henri, it's so good to be chatting, man.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fun one because for us, built around owning, upsending creators, we were just chatting before, you can't have it without abstraction, making it easier for onboarding non-crypto people. So I guess for those who might not even know, maybe we start with kind of what Privy is all about.
Yes. So Privy is born out of a deep-seated frustration from the fact that this is, to me, an incredible space. We've built an ownership rail for the web, which is deeply needed, but then we've forced people to have to get, PhD level understandings of like public key cryptography in order to engage with the space at all. And so I think my frustration was it is extremely hard to have impact in this space unless we solve usability problems. And that starts with ensuring that users can get access to everything that happens on chain without needing to go through the hurdle of downloading an extension or an app, saving a seed phrase, having to look at transaction confirmation screens that they largely may not understand. And so I think what Privy does is we build embedded wallets. This is key management software that any developer can integrate flush into their app so that they can give their users access to the entirety of what's going on chain. They can spin up wallets, they can manage assets, they can interact with smart contracts without needing to actually show the guts of the underlying infrastructure and having it be married to the surface of the app itself. Mm-hmm. So our customers range from very on-chain products, like yourselves, like Zora, like Farcaster, like Hyperliquid or Pump, to neobanks and payments platform where users have no idea that there is any on-chain component. And that's a very exciting, I think, place to sit.
Exactly, and we're going to get into the Stripe acquisition in a second too, because I think obviously, again, huge unlock in terms of hiding the stuff that no one wants to deal with in onboarding people. But I guess for you, talk to me about a little bit of the journey. Like you talk about those pain points. Again, we are using Privy, our sister show, Bestest Ever, made it super easy for non-crypto people to onboard. But what has that been like in building? Because obviously we're in a night and day situation in this cycle versus maybe some in the past, that now it is the case that, okay, if this is going to reach mainstream, you need things like this.
To be honest, it's been a very exciting, we founded the company about exactly 4 years ago. And we spent about the first year working really on how do we associate data to wallets privately before moving to, okay, well, first people need wallets, so let's get into that problem. And then this is where we started. So the real product journey starts, I think, 3 years ago. And it's been really, unlocked. I think a lot about the segments of our time as unlocked by specific customers. Like ultimately we're infra, we are building developer tools. Our product is only as useful as developers find it to be and as developers use it to unblock their own products to do the things that they want. And so I think the journey has gone through early days of adoption by very crypto native products. Maybe SocialFi might be the movement to broader adoption across larger crypto companies and DeFi to now very large adoption by fintechs. And so every time basically we've just gotten to expand the set of customers that we serve and through it, the product capabilities that they needed. And so that's really how our roadmap has been driven, but that's been the journey from a place in which we were serving, two-person developer teams, which remains a huge part of our customer base, to now serving public companies that have thousands of developers and adapting the product along the way to make sure that we can do both.
Yeah, and I guess obviously that's where kind of the Stripe acquisition makes a ton of sense in terms of a company based on similar ideals, I think is maybe fair to say, in terms of adding tech to the stack for all kinds of teams, because everyone needs payments. But if those payments are going to be on chain, then I guess everyone needs Privy too. So how did that come about? What was the process? How was it, to go through that as a founder?
Honestly, the Stripe team made it very easy. And so in that sense, the process was good. They reached out to us, sort of saying, listen, we've been working on more on-chain things. We, in fact, acquired a company, Bridge, to work on stablecoin orchestration and issuance. But we're noticing basically that wallets are a core part of the stack. We would like some wallets. And we're like, great, we can sell you some wallets. And they're like, no, we would like a wallets company. And I think from our side, we weren't looking to sell, but we were very excited about what we could do with Stripe, about the way in which that would move our timelines forward from decades to months and years in terms of certain customers that we wanted to serve, in terms of our ability to layer abstractions across fiat and crypto and just do a lot more for our customers. And then, as you mentioned, culturally, we felt very aligned with the org. So I think the early conversations were like, what does it take for us to be really excited about the marriage? Because we're aligned in purpose, but like, what are the modalities of like us working together? And I think it was, we want to remain autonomous. Like we want to work within Stripe to help deliver a lot of value for Stripe customers, but we want to keep serving our customers and, you know, chief amongst them to some extent, like degens, because I feel like the space really grows through a lot of what's happening at the very frontier.
Yeah.
And that is served by very crypto native customers. And so like our point was, we are very excited about stablecoins, no matter how excited people are about stablecoins. I think they're not excited enough. And yet I think there's so much to be built, you know, in the crypto landscape outside of it as well. And so we were like, we want to continue to do both. And beyond that, we want to be able to serve a very modular stack. Like you should be able to use Privy as part of Stripe products alongside Bridge, alongside everything else that like Stripe is delivering to make sure that it is a seamless experience for people who don't want to touch these rails.
Yeah.
But also, you should be able to use Privy in whatever way you want with other providers and other partners, because ultimately part of the value of the stack has been that it's so composable. And that so far is like what we've been doing, which is very exciting.
That's what we've witnessed too, in terms of kind of trying to figure out a way to start to, and I'd be curious to kind of get your take on where you think we are in the whole retail institution kind of sea change, I guess it may be fair to say. But for us, in terms of what we've always wanted to do, it's just underwriting ownership in creators. Like we did it with Coinage. It was a very crypto forward, like you said, people who are in the space. Then we did it for a food show where no one really knew anything about crypto and new wallets, but they still wanted to own it and grow with their favorite creator. And so Privy enabled that. So, I mean, when you look at what is possible, when you abstract away a wallet completely and think about the applications that are still to come, what gets you most excited about? Sure, we've built a lot in crypto, but look at all the things that can still happen when all of a sudden no one needs the pain point of onboarding through traditional wallets.
I think there's probably like two worlds that emerge. The first is like, in a sense, crypto apps going mainstream, and the second is mainstream apps going crypto in a sense. And I think both are happening, and both are happening at once, and it's not one or the other. And so I look at, you know, traditional fintechs, I look at neobanks, I look at even traditional banks and remittances products, and the reality is a lot of these customers are starting to pull on the stablecoin thread. Like the amount of growth that we're seeing in that market is absolutely incredible. And as they get to, okay, this is a cheaper, faster, programmable alternative to like the traditional rails that we have. Like you can move money around 24/7. You don't have to wait until, you know, Friday at 5 things end and then they pick up again. You don't need to jump between 5 intermediary banks and pay fees every time if you want to move money from, and we're in Argentina right now, from like Buenos Aires to New York, jumping through like a Singaporean entity and so on and so forth. That is the first thread that's coming. And I think along with it, you'll see DeFi come along. Okay, now that we have these stable coins, how can we put them to work? Like where will yield come from? All of these questions. And so I think it's interesting because we're like seeing a pincer movement basically, where the rails are being built out by folks on both sides of the aisle. And very quickly, I think they'll meet. And then I think beyond that becomes the question of, to what extent will the end user be more aware or less aware of crypto rails? And I think both are going to happen. This is a kind of a hot take, but I think in a sense, a lot of the rails will disappear. Most people today use zero crypto products that they don't know about, meaning when you're using a crypto product, you're doing so intentionally. You're on, you know, Coinbase or you're on a trading app. But increasingly, I think people will not know about the underlying app, the fact that it uses these rails, but it just does because that delivers a better product experience. But I think there will remain a place where you actually know about this. And you may not know it's crypto, but you might know that you have your wallet to own content. And like, you know, the word wallet obviously is widely used in our world, but it exists everywhere else as well. And so I don't know. I think the sea change is afoot. I think right now, fintech and maybe prediction markets are leading the way into how does this happen. And I think we're in a sense at a journey where both financialization and payments are the tip of the spear, but there's a lot more to go from there.
Well, I think the coolest part to me too is everything you just described in terms of abstraction is like, okay, cool. You don't actually need to know that it's crypto rails, but crypto rails enable certain things that you couldn't do otherwise. Like I'm even thinking about secondary markets for like StubHub or anything like that, and tickets. And the promise has been so large for so long that I feel like maybe sometimes people forget like what Bitcoin did well to trigger everything else that's happening in crypto. In terms of putting ownership on chain and having verifiability on chain. And it's kind of cool to hear you think about, or to hear how you think about these things, where it's like, even if you do have the onboarding process be to the point where no one even knows it's crypto rails, they still need it and appreciate it.
Well, and I think the also cool thing is there's a number of features that have kind of been, in my opinion, locked away for lack of scale to some extent, which is to say crypto's had a handful of like vertical use cases with PMF thus far. And as we see more and more, we need to build out the feature set. So I'll give two examples. The first is privacy. Like I think, we should all be underwhelmed by how much progress has been made in privacy, like deployment at scale in crypto. There's like great companies that are building, complex ZK circuits or different like privacy preserving solutions at the chain level, at the wallet level, and so on and so forth. But by and large, because the space is pseudonymous, the like revealed preference is that most people on chain have not cared.
Yeah.
And I think that is changing as retail comes in. Stripe worked with Coinbase and Shopify to launch, basically stablecoin pay-ins for merchants. And like these people really care about privacy for good reason, because you don't want like the entire merchant's balance to be like leaked on chain. The second example here might be basically composability of assets, where yes, we've managed to make wallets more ubiquitous, but we also need to make sure that people can take that ticket from StubHub and like potentially like use it on Ticketmaster. Maybe they're both owned by the same parent company, I'm not sure.
I don't actually, I don't know. I don't think so.
But the point being, these are all like problems that are incredibly important, but we're now coming to a time in which the rubber is meeting the road, and there are clear product implications to actually solving them, which I think is like the most interesting era to be building.
Well, it's exciting just because, again, there aren't a lot of projects that have been able to execute, I think, the way that you guys have at Privy. And as a customer myself, there haven't been a lot of products that have solved issues that are there in the way that you guys have. And congratulations on the sale to Stripe too. I guess that would be my last question is, as a founder who has been through that for that amount of time, what's that been like for you in terms of the exit? A lot of people in crypto don't get that.
Yeah.
A lot of people in crypto don't know where it ends, but I guess it's not even the end, it's a new beginning.
That's how we framed it. I think, we had a talk with our entire team to sort of, talk through things, and I think one of the slides read, this is not an exit, it's the next chapter. We've earned absolutely nothing. There's like such a long way to go. And so in many ways, I think I am extremely excited because I'm seeing the ways in which we've gotten to speed up since the acquisition. I'm seeing the product capabilities or the engineering capabilities that we've had. I'm seeing some of the go-to-market reach that we have. And so I feel like there's that much more pressure on us to deliver, because what a fucking shame it would be if we can't in spite of this. So I think it's a few things. I think there's a great sense of like gratitude that it feels like we get to deliver the product experiences and product that we want now through these extra rails, and I think it makes abstraction and mainstream adoption something that we potentially have that much more of a thumb to put on the scale for the things that we want to see happening in the world, and that's like very exciting. I also think like, the job's not done in so many ways, and we have such a long way to go, both as a product and as an industry. And so a lot of it has been about like, squaring the two like together. Like, what are the places in which we should be more ambitious?
Yeah.
Because maybe now we can be. And what are the places in which actually, chop wood and carry water like it remains the like task of the day, and the only thing we should be doing, which is largely true, is like writing code and talking to users. And so that's like, I think some of the balance I'm trying to figure out right now.
Well, I appreciate you sitting here and chopping wood with us and talking to us as users of it, man. But yeah, congrats again, and love the product, I will say, as someone who's using it.
I'm so grateful.
Right on. Thanks, Henri.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.